When we think about keeping patients safe in a hospital, our minds usually jump to things like sterilized tools and hand washing. But what about the walls themselves? Today, we're going to dig into a really critical, but honestly often overlooked piece of the puzzle in healthcare design: the very surfaces that surround our patients and our staff. We're going to explore why your walls are so much more than just a backdrop. They're actually an active part of your infection control system.
So let me just start with this question. Could the very walls of your facility be undermining your best efforts at infection control? It's a bold thought, I know, but it's one we absolutely have to ask. See, this isn't about paint colors or branding anymore. We need to reframe this as a clinical decision, where the right choice supports patient safety, and well, the wrong one can introduce some serious unnecessary risks.
Okay, so let's get into it. The modern healthcare wall has a ridiculously tough job. First off, it's got to stand up to hospital-grade disinfectants, day in and day out, without failing. Period. Then, it needs to be incredibly durable to resist the constant bumps and scrapes from gurneys, carts, and all sorts of equipment. And finally, and this is a big one, any installation or repair has to happen with as little disruption as possible, because, patient care doesn't just stop. These are the three pillars we have to build on.
To really understand the best solution out there, we first need to take a hard look at the most common one: vinyl graphics. For years, vinyl has been the go-to. It's what everybody knows. But as our clinical standards have gotten tougher, it's time to put this old guard under the microscope and really see if it still holds up.
And here's the fundamental conflict with vinyl. The promise is great, right? Bright, beautiful graphics that go up pretty quickly. They look fantastic on day one. But the reality, especially in a demanding place like a hospital, is that the very things holding it together, the seams, the adhesives, the edges, those become its biggest liabilities over time.
What's so important to understand is how vinyl actually fails. It's not just one thing, it's a whole domino effect. See, the seams and edges trap dirt and germs, which means you have to clean them aggressively. But that aggressive cleaning then breaks down the adhesives, which causes the edges to lift and peel. And that, of course, creates an even bigger trap for germs, and the whole cycle just keeps going. Add in the tears from equipment and the costly wall damage when you have to remove it, and the long-term problems become really, really clear.
All right, so we've laid out the problems pretty clearly. Now, let's pivot to the solution. To make an expert choice, you really need an expert framework. And look, this isn't just some nice-to-have wish list. These are the non-negotiable criteria that any high-performance wall solution must meet to even be considered safe and effective in today's clinical environments.
So let's walk through this framework, because it all connects logically. It all starts with being completely seam-free. That's number one for a reason. It eliminates the main place where germs can hide. From there, the surface has to have incredible chemical tolerance to handle all that cleaning, which leads directly to the operational need for minimal disruption during installation. Of course, it also needs high-impact durability for all those daily bumps, plus the ability to integrate things like wayfinding. And finally, the whole solution needs a sustainable life cycle, so you can update it without tearing everything down. This is the new standard.
So the big question is, what kind of technology can actually tick every single one of those boxes? Well, it requires a fundamental shift in how we think about putting graphics on walls. We're talking about direct-to-wall printing technology. The first thing you need to get your head around is what this technology removes from the equation. There's no vinyl film, there are no PVC materials, and most importantly, there's no layer of adhesive that can fail or degrade. It literally subtracts the points of failure right from the start.
And this is the real game changer for infection control. Because you're printing directly onto the wall, you get a continuous, completely unbroken surface. There are literally no seams to trap dirt, no overlaps that can peel back, and no edges to catch on a cart or hold on to moisture.
So what you're left with is a graphic that isn't just stuck on the wall. It actually becomes part of the wall. It's a truly integrated architectural finish that delivers the cleanability and durability you have to have in the most demanding clinical spaces. And hey, remember our criterion about minimal disruption? Because this technology is brought right on site, a typical installation is done in under 5 hours. Think about that. That means a unit can be totally transformed between shifts without shutting down patient care or causing these long, painful operational delays.
Now look, anyone can make a claim, right? But proving it is a whole other ballgame. A true expert approach isn't just about picking some new technology, it's about validating that choice with real data and testing. This is how you take the risk out of the decision and guarantee performance for the long haul. This quote really just nails it.
Infection prevention teams know that a compromised surface is a potential breeding ground. Surface integrity isn't a nice-to-have feature. In a clinical setting, it is the single most important factor. End of story.
This comparison table just lays it all out, and it's pretty eye-opening. Both vinyl and rigid panels depend on components, seams, joints, sealants that are going to break down eventually and create gaps where contaminants can hide. Direct-to-wall technology is the only one on this list that fundamentally eliminates those physical hiding spots from its design.
Okay, so we've talked about the physical structure, but that's only half the battle. True durability is also about chemical resistance. A wall graphic is only as good as its ability to withstand your hospital's specific, approved list of disinfectants, day after day, without fading, or staining, or breaking down.
So when you're evaluating solutions, an expert demands proof. Here's the testing checklist you should be using. Any product you're considering must prove it's compatible with these common hospital-grade chemicals. Don't just settle for some generic claim. You need to demand proof against the exact protocols your own teams are using every single day.
And here's how you empower yourself. You need to ask potential vendors for specific third-party test data. Use the industry standards by name, ASTM for adhesion, ISO for wet scrub resistance. This totally shifts the conversation from marketing claims to measurable, verifiable performance. It's the expert's way of making sure you get what you're paying for.
So we'll end on this. We started by asking if your walls were a weak link. Now, let's reframe that. What if your walls could become a strong, active partner in your mission? A tool that actually supports your clinical team, enhances your infection control goals, and improves the patient experience, all while standing up to the absolute toughest demands. What would that kind of strategic asset be worth to your facility?